And joining us now to talk about that is Clara Villar, founder and CEO of the Hispanic Post, who I had the pleasure of meeting a couple of weeks ago. And Clara, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here today.
Well, thank you. Okay, so let's talk about this. You know, the Heritage Foundation did a study and found that the mass legalization that the bill would bring forth would cost $6.3 trillion. You know, it's been disputed by others. Where do you think we're headed? And, you know, you hear so much debate. There will be amendments allowed. There won't be amendments allowed. Even Marco Rubio says we need amendments allowed. The Democrats seem to think we don't. So let's focus on the Senate, because I don't know where it's going in the House. But is this going to pass the Senate?
Well, I believe it will pass the Senate. I think it has a very, very good chance because I think that the bipartisan Gang of Eight has been working their colleagues very hard. Clearly, I think they're looking for something positive to happen. I thought Senator Rubio's comments that the House is where the difficulty is a realistic view.
Yeah, he also you know, talked about the need to make some modifications and allow debate for it to pass in the Senate. Let me ask you, why is immigration reform important to get done in your view?
Well, I think Steve, certainly, you know, we can touch on the Hispanic issue and the Hispanic demographic voting power that has become very evident, but pragmatically, I think that this has been an issue that's been hanging over the country for decades and decades. The first wave of illegal immigrants started coming into the country in the late 80s, 90s, and I think that it's time the United States really established some type of law that addresses this issue. Secondly, I think that I am in the camp that believes that actual passage of an immigration policy will be a net benefit to the country economically. Studies have shown from past immigration waves that you do see economic wages do increase once the legalization process is enacted. I also would say, on the other hand, I actually am very skeptical that many of the undocumented workers will actually stay in the country necessarily over the 12 years. That's why I'm a skeptic of the Heritage study here. Who says that in 12 years Mexico might not prove to be a much more economically viable alternative for the folks that are here?
Well, I mean, I could take issue with and argue the other side of that. I don't see Mexico doing anything but sinking rapidly. I mean, you can't even go to Cancun or any of the vacation spots anymore. It's getting worse and worse and worse, not better, and there's no sign that it's getting better with the gangs and the drugs and the guns and the murders. I mean, and what gets me is
I'm not arguing with you, yeah.
And what gets me is, you know what Mexico does to immigrants who come into their southern border, you know, and yet Mexico's government takes us to task for the horrific way that we treat the illegals who come in to this country. I just got to say, you know, to me, here's the mistake. First of all of these people, and you know, the bill calls for the whole immediate family. Anybody who's here, bring your immediate families eventually too. So we're talking about tens of millions of more people coming into this country, and they're all going to vote Democrat. That goes without saying. And the Republican Party, no matter how far they bend on this, as soon as it's done, the Democrats are going to say, well, you know, we could have gotten this and this and this, but the evil Republicans said no. So the Republicans will still be viewed by those who view them as the impediment to this now, will still be viewed by those in the Hispanic community as the bad guys. So the Republican Party not only won't gain, the Republican Party will ultimately lose, because these Mexicans who come in, I believe, are going to vote Democratic. So let's talk about those two issues first off the bat.
Yes, I think, well, first of all, you certainly raise a point, again, an important point that I'm not going to argue with you. By that I mean 75% of Hispanics did vote, Steve, for Obama. I think that the Republicans have a lot of work to gain back those votes from the community in general. I also think that Republicans are not being clear to the public in terms of pointing out that I don't think the Democrats want comprehensive reform either. Certainly the AFL-CIO didn't show a lot of willingness to bend until they were hit over the head by the U.S. Chamber to allow 200,000 guest worker passes a year. So what I'm saying is that the Democrats are not necessarily showing all their cards. I don't think they want comprehensive reform either. So I think this is a poker game between the parties. You are correct. The Republicans are being watched more closely on this issue because there are some loud, abrasive voices, discussing it and being highlighted by the media. But I actually think both sides of the aisle have a lot of concern. The Democrats for low-cost wage earners here, and the Republicans, they should also present their case. I think that, look, this is an illegal action. It should be dealt with in a careful and prolonged way. So it's not an easy issue, I think.
We're talking to Clara Villar, founder and CEO of the Hispanic Post, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. See, I don't see why this should be undertaken at all. You can't tell me that the Hispanic vote went from George W. Bush, the amount he had, down to where we were with Romney because of immigration reform. I think the fact of the matter is, as the polls showed, when they were polled, the Pew Hispanic Research Center did a poll on the after the 2012 election when they left the voting booths, and immigration ranked fourth or fifth. For the Hispanic concerns. Hispanic concerns are the same concerns as everybody else. And by the way, not that I generalize like the media does, but in general terms, the Hispanic community believes in good education in charter schools, and believes in sanctity of marriage, and believes in tradition and jobs and education. The same values that conservatives and Republicans hold. Immigration is not their main concern, especially if they're here legally. It's not their main concern. So I don't have any idea when immigration ranks so low on the concerns not only of Hispanics but of ordinary Americans, why on earth this has to be done now. The Republicans feel they have to do something. I think they're being hoodwinked, and they're going to suffer no matter what they do or don't do, and they should just say, hey, we have more important issues to talk about in this country, like getting people back to work, letting more high-tech workers come in, letting more low-level workers come in. We don't have jobs for people now that are here.
We don't have jobs for people now, I think, for a whole host of reasons. I think that the bank lending is terrible. I think the regulatory environment has been the most restricted ever.
But how will bringing more tens of millions of more people into the picture fix it?
Well, I think that they're already here. So Steve, they've actually stopped the illegal immigration wave has stopped and at the border. But my point to you is that those folks have been here. Not for security reasons, it hasn't stopped. Pardon me?
It hasn't stopped because of good security. If it stopped, it's because fewer want to come over here.
Fewer want to come over, and there is
which
better,
is good.
There is better, and I agree with you. I totally agree with you on that. I think that there is better border security. Certainly, Arizona is a key state that has seen a significant drop, and that issue has been addressed to some degree in terms of the wave of immigration. But I think that at this stage, the ball has begun. You're absolutely right that if you poll the Hispanics that are in this country right now, they'll say that economy and jobs is number one, and understanding health care issues is number two in terms of control, in terms of interest. But the ball has been begun, and I think that Rubio taking the lead on this should be very straightforward with the public, saying he's doing what he can do. Republicans are doing what they can do once the ball has started moving, and also make sure that the other sides, that the Democrats' issues are as highlighted as the Republicans are.
The problem is the media will never do that. The media will always blame, and really, as we discussed a little bit when we all met, unless we get a presidential candidate, I mean, statewide everybody's doing okay Republican-wise, but if we don't get a presidential candidate who has new advisors and a new outlook and realizes that they're up against not only their opposition, but that their opposition is the media every day, every move, every question, then I don't see a Republican winning if they don't wake up.
I think that there might be some interesting announcements in the very near future that'll show some dynamic people at the RNC addressing this issue. I think the Republicans are way behind connecting with the Hispanic community using telenovelas, the same type of media platforms that Univision, Telemundo use to really take a strong stand in Hispanic households, Republicans should use those same platforms to communicate our views to Hispanic households. We don't do that. We don't use social media. Hispanics use social media and mobile devices at a rate higher than the average U.S. population.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Absolutely, yeah. They communicate constantly with their families, and they communicate constantly online. Again, social media and using mobile tools. I can guarantee you that the Democrats have a policy that's starting now to communicate to the Hispanic community in partnership with Univision and Telemundo, explaining why Obamacare is a fantastic security insurance for Hispanics to win over the vote. We don't do those things. And unless we learn how to communicate to this country's Hispanic community, I don't think they'll be able to understand our message in the way that they should.
We also don't, not to necessarily target it to the Hispanic community, but to the entire country, which would, I think, disproportionately affect, Hispanic women and black women, if they would have pointed out how radical Obama's policies are on abortion and right to life as compared to Republicans. Instead, Republicans are painted as the villains, a war on women, and they shut up and they take it and they don't say anything.
And we don't communicate. So I'm on a campaign. My Hispanic Post is a small pebble in the ocean, but I'm really taking the campaign much more broadly, Steve, to really say we need to communicate better with these groups.
Now tell us how we could get the Hispanic Post and find out more about it.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. The Hispanic Post is www.hispanicpost.com. We've just gone through a major configuration. It is aggregated content on Hispanic news, video, information, and business ideas. But we're really launching we're launching a telenovela initiative online. By that I mean explaining issues like this one, immigration or Affordable Health Care Act, how it hurts business growth and development, those type of things. And we're going to really use a series of stories that outline a Hispanic family and all the issues they go through and challenges, growing a business, raising a family, taking their kids to school. So stay tuned.
And you have to realize, and I know you do, and this is more my point, that social media is great, but you know that if the media were to focus on that Hispanic family used in the ad, they'd call them sellouts, they'd call them not really Hispanic enough. So that's what I mean when I say that you have to realize we're in a war with the mainstream media. Hey, listen, a pleasure talking to you. We'll have you back soon, Clara. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. That's Clara Villar, ladies and gentlemen, founder and CEO of the Hispanic Post.